In our continuous pursuit of success and self improvement, there is this fear in the back of our mind that we might lose it all and start over. That we might hit this rock bottom where we don't have anything and the worst case scenario will become a reality. This is episode 22 of the Perspective Shift podcast, and it is all about the idea of rock bottom and why we think it is a myth and just an idea in our heads. This is a short one, and we really hope that you enjoyed this conversation, and let's get right into it.
Before we get into the whole subject of why rock bottom is a myth to begin with, and the fact that there's not enough metrics to actually be able to determine what rock bottom is in the first place, I think it's important thing to also understand why we people, human beings, tend to be afraid of hitting rock bottom or going back to ground zero, let's say. So on that ground, I'm just gonna go ahead and ask you, what makes you think that people hit rock bottom?
I mean, we as human beings are always, striving to achieve our goals, whatever these goals are. Like, they could be physical, about your physical body, or financially to become more rich, or even with your connections, with your friendships and your partner. And when we are stuck in that place where, we are at the beginning, we're trying to improve ourselves, we tend to feel shitty about ourselves generally, that I'm a mess, I don't know how to improve. And it takes a really long time to get things going, to start becoming a better person, to improve the different things in your life that are aiding you to achieve these goals. And so you reach a point where you start seeing results, and you start to look back at who you were a couple of years ago, maybe. And you don't want to go back to that point. You don't want to lose everything and start all over. And that's where this fear can even push us even more forward to try to achieve these goals. But it is always in the back of our mind to, you know, we don't want to go back. And I think this is the fear of rock bottom. And this is why we are like always thinking about that. It is always in the back of our minds that we don't want to lose what we have gained, all the things that we have achieved.
Hmm. Definitely. It sort of feels like we cling a little bit too much to that identity that we've built for ourselves, to the materials that we've worked hard on getting. And because we cling to that so much and we're not being, I guess, open minded enough about it, that we start fearing the fact that, okay, what if I lose everything that I've worked for? As if everything that we've worked for is something that's of value. Even though all the things that you get, you're bound to lose them anyways, we still just cling to them. And then due to that clinginess, not wanting to let go of things, we start fearing the worst case scenario. And the worst case scenario is, for the most part, or in the bigger picture.
And I think this is it. Like, the worst case scenario is our rock bottom. And this is where I connected to the fact that this rock bottom is a myth, because it is only thoughts in your head of what is this worst case scenario, which I think even if you lose everything, even if you go back to that point, it is not how you think it is. And so that's where the fact comes that rock bottom doesn't really exist. Like, whatever you imagined things will be, when you lose all of these things that you had, it's not gonna be exactly as you imagined. And let's say you lost all of the materialistic things that you gained, there are still a lot of things that you gained mentally as well, things that you have learned, wisdom that you've gained. And you don't necessarily lose that. So how are you going to fall to that rock bottom in your head? Exactly, how are you going to go back to that point?
To me, I look at it in a bit of a different way, to be honest. I start always by asking myself the question, what are the metrics that I'm basing this rock bottom on? Like, when you're measuring something, like, okay, this is this is bigger than this because you know the measurements. When we're talking about rock bottom, we're also kind of measuring what could go wrong, what could go right, what are we going to lose, what are we at right now in life, and all of this stuff. And there is just not enough metrics. First of all, because your brain cannot comprehend all the metrics that there is. And second of all, you can't be aware of all the metrics. And then we go to the next point, which is if I'm going to ask you, when is it possible to hit rock bottom? You're going to be like, I don't know, maybe in a week. And then when you say in a week, because you can't hit rock bottom right now, because you're not at rock bottom right now. You're here right now. So when you would be hitting rock bottom in the future. And I always like to go back to like the philosophical way of looking at it, which is like the future does not exist. The only thing that exists is right now, because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. And you're basing it on the future as if you know how long you're going to be alive, what's going to happen, and all the randomness in the world. And then since we don't know, since the future does not exist, I look at it like rock bottom does not exist either.
Yeah, that's a very good connection. That's a very
It's
good
just
point.
like a fear of losing something that you hold valuable for yourself, and then you're afraid of losing that, or you're clinging to not losing whatever you have, and then that creates a rock bottom. And if I were to elaborate on the metrics of, because I mentioned that if you can't really know the metrics that you use in order to calculate or be able to know what the rock bottom is. But like one of the metrics that I like to include in there, maybe one of the most important metrics that I consider for myself, is that it's the norms that we have in our lives. So if you consider it like right now, the norms that you have in your life are nothing but something that you've adapted, that your brain has adapted, that this is the life that we're having right now. So for example, the norm of someone who plays video games all day long is to play games all day long. The norm for someone who's always outside doing something, that's the norm. And then based on that norm, you can always decide what rock bottom for you is. So let's take us as an example. When we were back in Syria, rock bottom for us was losing everyone in your life, whether they're getting killed or not, and then you're left all alone with nothing to have. Our rock bottom right now would be a little bit different. That is still a bit of the rock bottom, but your journey changes. Your relationship with a lot of things changes. Your norms change with time because you're adapting to the new environment that you're living in. You're adapting to the lifestyle that you have right now, and then your norms would be dependent on that. They are interconnected technically. And then because of that, your rock bottom would change as well. So based on that metric, I look at it like you don't know how your norms are going to be in the future. So when you're worrying about the rock bottom that you have right now, that you're worried about hitting in a year time, for example, in that year, your rock bottom and your norms could be completely different. Absolutely. That you wouldn't even be able to imagine what rock bottom would be for you in a year.
It is very subjective as well. Like I think what the things that are included in the norms, there are multiple things, and I think values are very important because your values change with time as well.
Definitely.
And based on your top values, that's where you base your rock bottom in a sense. So an example from my life, like in the past, I didn't value friendships as much as I do now. They weren't like the top priority. And so my rock bottom was more related to being broke and not knowing what to do in my life. And of course, that is still important, but the value of friendship and connections is bigger in my mind, in my life. So my rock bottom right now is more related to losing all the friends that I have and, losing everyone that I know. That is my rock bottom right now.
It changes.
So it really changes. And 2 years ago, it was something else. And in 10 years, it could be something different as well. That's why you can't really like dictate this rock bottom. That is something fixed and that you're going to reach it because it's very fluid. It's always changing and it's just an idea in your head. It doesn't really exist once again. So it makes sense to understand that you can't really go back to the point where you started with everything. You can't go back to this, let's call it point zero or ground zero.
But since we've established or not, I don't know, but since we've said and we both are convinced that rock bottom is a myth. We can also pretty much agree that you cannot go back to ground zero. To elaborate on that, I'm going to take an example from my own life. When I first left my country and I moved here, on the way, and when I first arrived here as well, I was always afraid and kind of repeating for myself that everything that I've worked for there, all the schools or the educations, all the this and that, all the friendships, all the hardships, they're all gone for nothing. And I've lost it all because I'm somewhere else, completely on my own, And then I start kind of hitting ground zero. And then with time, I've come to realize that I didn't actually lose any of it, if that makes sense. Because I was still here. I was still me. I still had all my experiences that I took from my home country with me here. Still had my education, all the stuff that I've learned, all the stuff that I've worked hard on. They are still a part of me that I brought alongside with me to this place, to this country. The things that I lost, again, lost, I don't really lose them. The things that in my mind I thought that I had lost them are things like friendships or time. But at the same time, even these you can argue about them because I don't really lose my friends. I could still talk to them online, and I get new friends, which is the circle of life. And then if you want to go talk about time, then I can also argue what is time in the first place. And then that's gonna be a big topic, so I don't want to open it. Sure. Please don't get started. we're gonna just put that and ask that question. But what I'm trying to get to here is that ground zero for me, if I were to give it a definition that would make is just when you're dead. If you don't have ground zero, because as you go through life and as you grow, progress, get better, whatever you want to call it, you're gonna start building a foundation for you. That foundation is gonna dictate a lot of things for you. It's kind of the identity that you hold on to or the values that you have for yourself. And then no matter what you build upon that foundation, when it gets torn apart, you still have the foundation in place. Yeah. You still have the skills with you. You still even though I left,
you don't lose.
Exactly. It's not just you can't go back to ground zero because sure I left my country, sure I left my school mid-year, sure I left all of this and I didn't get my graduation papers. But all the stuff that I've learned there in school I still took them with me and they helped me to complete my high school here.
Lose the experience.
It's not that I lost everything, I just lost what I was working on technically, but instead I gained something else that I started working on here. You know what I mean? So the foundation just keeps going with you. So I'll take the example they were talking about, they were telling me before. Like somebody starting a YouTube channel or learning how to edit YouTube videos and then the channel fails or something happens with it and they get banned or whatever.
Something I used to talk about with you as well when I started my channel.
You would still have the experience that you've gained while you were working on getting that channel to grow bigger. It's not like you're going back to ground zero. You still have the foundation.
This is why I think. So another perspective of it is that you can't go back to point zero or ground zero because you can lose all the external things. You can lose the YouTube channels. You can lose your friends. You can lose your house. You can lose your job. But even if you think you have went back to that ground zero or you reached your rock bottom, the experiences that you have, the things that you've learned are going to help you to really climb up much faster than the first time you started everything. So you don't go back to that point. You're at a different point. You are somewhere, it was something hindered the things that you're trying to do and you fell for a little bit, but you don't go back. You're just at a different point and you're gonna continue your path in a different way. So you can't go back to that point where you don't know anything, you are clueless, you are ignorant, and you're starting to learn everything that you're trying to work on. So another example from my life is the whole self-improvement thing, because for a long time, the past year, especially the last year, that I noticed how I became much more confident and I got out from my depression and anxiety. But in the back of my mind, I'm always afraid to go back to that point where I am depressed again and anxious. I can't talk to people and I can't do anything. And these are only fears in my head. some days I might feel more anxious than other days. I might not be as confident, but I can never go back to that point because in between I have learned so much and gained so many skills and read a lot of books and understood the world on a much deeper level, and you can't lose that.
I think what is kind of scary for some people is that it's not that hitting rock bottom is also scary. I think what's scarier for a lot of people is how they're gonna react after they hit rock.
Sure.
Because, and I think this is something that's gonna go on. That a lot of people are gonna think about it as well. Even if you hit rock bottom, you can always find a way to climb back up. But
Yeah.
when you hit it, the emotional turbulence, the disturbance that can happen to you, I'm not gonna lie to you, okay? It will cloud your judgment. It will fuck up a lot of things for you. And you'll probably forget completely about your foundation. Right? You're not gonna be like, oh no, I still have this foundation. No,
I think that there is a clear reason why that happens, though.
for sure. But still, regardless, once you hit rock bottom, that's gonna happen. And in my opinion, at least, it's just a phase that you're just gonna have to go through. And then at some point, you're gonna start going back and realizing that, oh right, I have a foundation. I know all of these stuff. I can just find a way to make it work. Because that it's the sort of a lot of people that when they hit rock bottom, when they lose everything they've worked on so far, they always kind of get into this state of fear, not knowing what to do, not knowing where to go, and then, oh my god, I lost everything and this and that, you know what I mean? And then as time goes on and they start kind of going through this phase and also kind of working out of it, they start realizing that, okay, I have the foundation, I have the skills, I have this and this, and I can just put all of these stuff to work to start building things again. So, sure, rock bottom does not exist, sure, it's a myth, but if you ever manage to maybe not hit rock bottom, but manage to lose it all, everything at once, lose it all at once, then sure, it's gonna be a mess. It's gonna be a fucking bloody mess. But eventually you'll get out of it.
I think there's something that is really important to mention here, that if you understand that your path in life or the things that you're working on is not a linear path,
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
your journey is going to be very turbulent. You're going to fall and rise up again and fall again. This is how it's going to be. But if you don't have that idea in your head, that understanding, then if you fall, then you're going to have to start from the beginning, which is once again thinking about rock bottom and hitting ground zero. And that's not going to happen. It just, the path that you're going on is just not straight. And there are a lot of factors that play a role why you might lose something or you might not feel at your best. Sometimes, I don't know, you might get in an accident and you won't be able to do the things that you're doing, and you're gonna heal your wounds, you're gonna become better, and that's where you're gonna start pushing forward again. But still, even at that point, you don't hit rock bottom. It's just a mishap and something that stopped you for a while, but your journey is still going and you're gonna keep pushing forward because you know that you already gained all of that knowledge and understanding in the beginning that is gonna stay with you. So after that accident or whatever the thing is that you lost, you're gonna go back on track. So I think this is really important to.
You can just compare it with a game as well. Like, why not? I'll take this as an example. Say you were doing
like a checkpoint.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I wanted to go
exactly.
to.
That's a very good example.
It's a checkpoint. So like if you fail at something and you suddenly lose it all, you have a checkpoint that you're gonna go back to, and then from that checkpoint you can go on.
Yeah.
And let's say that you were playing a game where there is no checkpoint, and you were doing a quest, for example, and then you died midway through that quest,
sure.
And then you have to repeat the quest from the beginning. You still know and you still have experience how to do the first half of the quest before you died at that point in the game and respawn, and then you started. Exactly. So it's not like you're just starting from ground zero. It's just like you're respawning at a previous stage, or you're just restarting the quest that you were into with the knowledge of how to get the first half of it, or I don't know how much of it, faster done and more efficient. And also you're getting the experience point regardless.
Yeah, so you can't lose it all. You can't lose it all.
Exactly. Yeah. But back to your point, I think we've talked about it. You already explained it, but I'm just going to go ahead and bring this also up. I'm pretty sure that we've mentioned this before in previous episode as well, that life is not really linear, like you've said. And for me, there is this artist who demonstrated life. He built stairs, and he was talking about these stairs are like, at least that's the interpretation that I've heard of it. Okay, I don't know if that was his intention of his piece, his art piece. I don't know if that was his intention of making this art piece, but the interpretation that I've heard and I've seen online was that he built these stairs, and he himself was going up the stairs, and the stairs were called life, success, whatever you want to call it. And he would go like 2 stairs up, he would fall. But when he falls, there's a trampoline.
Oh yeah, I saw it. I saw it.
Trampoline. There's a trampoline waiting for him. Exactly. And then
It's
he would hit
really
it,
interesting.
and then that trampoline would just put him back up to the stair that he falls down from, or a previous stair.
Yeah.
And it would go up again, and it would fall.
He keeps improving.
Exactly. And then
and at some point he would fall even further down, but then
Exactly.
climbed even faster.
Exactly. And then he would like, I remember he got to the top, and then he just fell down again, and then that fall just got him to the first stair again.
Mm-hmm.
But this time it wasn't one stair at a time and falling. It was like, I'm at the top again. He fell again, and then he managed to get back up again. And then that kind of describes life.
Oh yeah.
Like that piece of art, the way he was demonstrating it, for me was like mind
Like,
blowing.
I saw that clip on Instagram, and I
And it
thought
was-
like, this is life.
It was insane.
Yeah.
It was really well
Yeah,
done.
but that is the point. And when you understand that life is not linear, you're not always going straight ahead. Sometimes you're gonna have a detour, or you're gonna go back a little bit. You start to realize that why rock bottom is a myth and why ground zero doesn't exist.
Exactly.
So yeah,
I guess that's it for this
I
episode.
think that's it. Yeah. So
Hope you enjoyed it.
thank you for watching.
Thank you
and
for watching.
We'll see you in the next one.
See you next time.